Gimel Hay, Gimel Hay, Demai. If one gives to a hostess, he tithes what he gives her and what he receives from her, because she is suspected of exchanging it. Rabbi Yossi said, "We are not responsible or for deceivers, nor he tithes only what he receives from her." If one gives to his mother-in-law, he tithes what he gives her and what he receives from her, because she is suspected of exchanging what is spoiled. Rabbi Yehuda said she seeks to favor her daughter and feels ashamed because before her son-in-law. Rabbi Yehuda agrees that if one gives his mother-in-law a produce of the sabbatical year, she is not suspected of exchanging it and giving her daughter produce of the sabbatical year to eat. If one buys produce from a person who is not trustworthy concerning maestros and forgets to tithe it, and he asks him on the Sabbath, he may eat upon his word. If the night follow the end of the Sabbath, he may not eat until he has tithed it. And if he did not find him, and one who is not trustworthy in regard to maestros said it is tithed, he may eat upon his word. If the night follow the end of the Sabbath, he may not eat until he has tithed it. And the true maestros of Demai reverted to its original location. Reb Shimon Sassari says he asked him even on a weekday, and he may eat upon his word. Okay.
I find that this mission over here, Dalit Aleph, a very interesting one. It just shows the mechanism because you cannot separate Chumas and Masros on Shabbos. So at that point, Chazal baked into the Gezerah of Demai the fact that okay, you can go and ask him, did you tithe it? And he can say, yeah, I did. They say you can believe him on Shabbos. If you don't finish
Right.
it on Shabbos, Motzei Shabbos, now it reverts to being Demai because you can. You can take the Chumas and Masros. And when it comes to Meduma, where he went ahead and separated from Demai, and the Truma portion fell back in, and he said, "Oh man, now I've lost this entire thing because now I'm going to have to give this to the coin or whatever." But there is no remedy for this. Right? He can't take Truma and Master from it now because it's gone. It's got to go to the coin. So now but that there's no more remedy. He can rely on the word of the specific Amaretz to say, "Did you tithe it?" And say, "Yes, I did tithe it." Oh, okay. So then what I put in wasn't even truma. So then it's fine. Okay. Base. Hamadir es chavero sheyochal etzlo. Um, this we dealt with this a lot more in Nadarim, but sometimes people would try to do this sort of emotional blackmail thing of like, if you don't come and eat by me, I'm going to take a neder. You'll be asked to have anything of mine. Um, like, so well, okay, that's a little awkward. Fine, I guess I'll come and eat by you. But the problem is that the guy who's being invited is a chaver, and the guy who's doing the inviting is an Amaretz. And the Yerushalmi actually explains that this is actually a very specific case that we're talking about over here. It's talking about a chassan and his father-in-law. The father-in-law is the Amaretz, and we're talking about the Sheva Brachas week.
Oh,
Okay, and like this is a very extenuating circumstance. So normally a chaver, as we said, is not allowed to eat in the home of an Amaretz. Okay, but what do you do? It's his father-in-law. So it says the Mishnah, he's allowed to. He's allowed to eat with him, according to one opinion, on the first Shabbos, or according to another opinion, the Shabbos means the first week. In other words, the Sheva Brachas week. That he's allowed to eat there and just not cause any waves. Okay. Ubilvad, even though he doesn't trust him that he's taken masras, but he does have to say, get him to say, listen, have you taken chumas and masras and all of its produce? And he has to say, yes, I have. Of course I have.
yeah.
Why are you even
Oh,
asking me? Right? Okay. Um, but he does have to get that verbal concession. Or b'Shabbos shnia, but after that first week, the second week, afal pishin nada mimenu hanaya lo yochal ad aser. He's not allowed to eat there until the son-in-law says, "Listen, I want you to do the trumas and masters in front of me, or else I'll do it myself." But this is just the situation. You're not ne'eman. You're not keeping all the practices of a ne'eman, and halacha is. I'm sorry, I can't do that. It's a bit awkward, but nonetheless,
absolutely.
that's what he has to do. Okay. Rabbi Eliezer Omer, Ein Adam Tzarich Likros Shem LeMaaser Oni Shel Demai. Now remember, we spoke about Maaser Sheni up until now. The first, second, fourth, and fifth years, when you need to take Maaser Sheni, and that you have to redeem and take the money to Yerushalayim and buy produce over there. The third and sixth years is Maser Ani. You don't have to take it. It's not, there's no kedusha to it. It's just that it has to be given to poor people. And furthermore, even if you, since it's demai, and you wouldn't actually have to give it to a poor person because the poor person must come and prove that this was actually table before. Otherwise, how, the burden of proof is on the claimant. Okay, so
Right. Right.
but
So,
nonetheless, he has an obligation to do the act of separation. So Rabbi Eliezer says, well, actually, no. Ein adam tzarich likros shem l'maaseh ani shel demai. He doesn't even need to declare it. Why? What's Rabbi Eliezer's thing? He has this. He has the shita that if a person wanted, he could declare all his property ownless, and he himself would be an ani, and therefore there's no need to separate it out. Okay, Chachamim omrim, nah. You still have to call it. Yeah, you say like you say the top 10% over here is Maser Ani, but he doesn't actually have to separate it out. And it's fresh because the poor person is not going to be able to claim it. He's not going to be able to prove that it was Tevil before. So therefore, once he has declared it Maser Ani, he doesn't have to give it to anyone. He can keep it for himself. Okay, but it still is an obligation to do the act of separation. Well, not the act of separation, but the declaration. Just the declaration is sufficient, and then there's no need to separate it out. Okay, Dalid. Mishakara shame litrumas maaseh shel demai. Um, a person got some demai into his possession, and he's been separating out the portions, and he said, okay, so the Trumas Maaseh portion is in the northern side, or whatever he says. Okay, or Maaseh Ani shall vadai, or else he has vadai table, and he separated it out, and he's taken out the truma, and now he takes out the Maser Rishon, and he's declared the Maser Ani on the portion of the 10% of the Maser Rishon. Okay. Um, but he hasn't separated them out. He just said, oh, they're in the northern portion, or okay. Uh,
uh,
Lo yitzaleim b'Shabbos. He's not allowed to separate them out on Shabbos because that's a tikkun.
right.
So he comes to the Shabbos. The Shabbos comes in and he slaps his forehead and says, "Oh my gosh, I forgot to separate these things out." Um, so what can he do? Oh, he says, Im haya kohen or ani lemudim lechol etzlo. If he says, but I've got guests coming. I've got a guest who's a kohen. I've got a guest who's an ani. And that's a useful thing. So I'll take the portion of the produce that was trumas maser of demai, and I'll serve it to the kohen. And I'll take the portion of the maser ani, and I'll give that to the ani, just for him to eat right away, because that's allowed. That's not called separate. That's not malacha. That's just called eating. Okay, give
Right. Right. So,
in a portion, but yavo v'yochluv ubilvad sheyodiem. He has to inform them. The coin for two reasons, and the oni for one reason. The reason that's shared between them is so that they shouldn't be machzik tova lechinam. It shouldn't be a genevas das.
uh-huh.
That he's giving them a gift from his own, because these things are really magia to them. The coin should be getting the master the trumas master anyway, and the oni should be getting the master oni. So he's really feeding them from their own. So they shouldn't be machzik tova for nothing. Okay, that would be genevas das. And for the coin, um, even more of a reason, because he has to make sure that he's tahor when he eats it.
Right. Right.
Okay,
So,
so that's the end of our Mishnah for today. Okay, let's
okay.
do
We have
yes, babe.
base. They are trusted concerning Lechet, Shechcha, and Peah in this season, and concerning Misa Ani during its entire year. And the son of a Levite is always trusted, and they are trustworthy only concerning things that people are accustomed to give them. They are trusted concerning wheat, but they're not trusted concerning flour or bread. They are trusted concerning the sarah of rice, but they are not trusted concerning it, either raw or cooked. They are trusted concerning beans, but they are not trusted concerning pounded beans, either raw or cooked. They are trusted concerning oil when they say it is of Misa Ani, but they are not trusted when they say it is of Nikuf olive. They are trusted concerning raw greens, but they are not trusted when they are cooked, either unless he had a small quantity. for it is the custom of the household to take out of from the stew pot. Okay,
Okay.
that takes brachos.
Brachos. Hey, Gimel.
Brachos. Okay. If one says your mercy extends even to bird's nest, and for the good for which you do shall your name be remembered, we give thanks, we give thanks. He is silence. If he went before the ark and erred, another shall take his place. He may not decline at such a time. From when does he begin? From the beginning of the bracha where he fell into error. Whoever goes before the ark shall not answer Amen after the Kohanim, because he might become confused. If no Kohen is present except him, he must not raise his hands. But if he is confident that he can raise his hands and resume his tefillah, he is permitted. If one commits an error in his recitation of tefillah, it is a bad omen for him. And if he is a congregational reader, it is a bad omen for those who sent him, because a man's agent is as himself. They said of Rabbi Kanina ben Dosa that he would pray for the sick and say, this one will live and this one will die. They asked him, how do you know? He said to him, if the prayer is fluent in my mouth, I know that he is accepted. And if not, I know that he is rejected. Nida.
Well, let's start with mikvahs.
Who goes first? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to finish that one. Yes. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yud Chet. If one ate tummy foods or drank tummy liquids and then immersed himself and then vomited them up, they remain tummy because they do not become purified in the body. But if he drank tummy water and then immersed himself and then vomited up, it's tahor because it can become purified in the body. If one swallowed a ring that is tahor and he entered a tent containing a corpse and then he himself sprinkled upon, he had himself sprinkled upon, and the sprinkling repeated, and he immersed himself and then he vomited it up, it was before. If one swallowed a ring that is tummy, he can immerse himself and eat truma. If he vomits it up and it is still tummy and renders him tummy. An arrow is stuck in a person. When it is visible, it intervenes. If it is not visible, he may immerse himself and eat truma.
Adonallah, surface mikvahs.
Done.
Okay, Nida.
Okay. Aleph. Shammai said regarding all women whose their times of discovering a discharge of blood suffice for them. Hillel says they are considered tummy from the time of their last examination to the time of their present examination, even for many days. But the comments say the law is neither in accordance with the words of this one or nor in accordance with that one. Whether 24 hours reduces the time from examination to examination, and from examination to examination reduces the time of 24 hours. For any woman who has a fixed period, her time suffices for her. And one who examines herself with examination cloths when she engages in marital relations, this examination is the equivalent of a regular examination and reduces the time of 24 hours in the time of from examination to examination. What is an example of the law that her time suffices for her? If a woman had been sitting on a bed and handling taharos, and she left the bed and discovered a discharge of uterine blood, she is tameh, but they are all tahor. Even though the comments say that she conveys tumah retroactively for 24 hours, she begins counting only from the time that she sees the discharge. Okay.
Right. Back to Caleb.
Olive. Regarding an olive that was partitioned with boards or with curtains, if the sheretz is found in one compartment, everything is tummy. Regarding a damaged basket plugged up with straw and hanging into the air space of the oven, if the sheretz is in the basket, the oven is tummy. If the sheretz is in the oven, any food that is inside the basket is tummy, but Eliezer rules it tahor. But Eliezer said, if a container affords protection in the more severe case of a corpse, should it not afford protection in the more lenient case of an earthenware utensil? And they said to him, if it affords protection in the more severe case of a corpse, that is because we can divide tents. Should it be then afford protection in the more lenient case of an earthenware utensil, given that we cannot divide an earthenware utensil? If it was whole and so too a box and so too a flask, if a sheretz is in it, the oven is tahor. And if the sheretz is in the oven, food within the container is tahor. If they developed a whole, that which was intended for foods is measured with olives. That which was intended for liquids is measured with liquids, and with that which was intended for both, we apply it to the more stringent measure. That is enough to take in liquid. Regarding a sedra that is placed on the mouth of an oven and sinks into it if it has no rim, if a sheretz is in the sedra, the oven is tame. If a sheretz is in the oven, food that is in the sedra is tame, for only utensils protect from the tumor of an earthenware vessel. Regarding a barrel that is full of tahor beverages and is placed beneath the floor of an oven, if a sheretz is in the oven, the barrel and the beverage are tahor. If the barrel was inverted and its mouth open to the airspace of the oven, if a sheretz is in the oven, beverage sufficient to moisten that is on the bottom of the barrel is tahor. Okay. Okay. Vav Gimel. If one sells wine to another and it sours, he is not liable. If it is known that his wine sours, it is an erroneous purchase. If he said to him, I am selling you spiced wine, he is responsible for the preservation until Shavuos. Old wine, it must be from the previous year, and very old wine from 3 years previously. One who sells a place to another to build a house for him on it, and similarly, one who accepts a contract from another to build for him a wedding house for his son or a widow house for his daughter, must build the house 4 cubits by 6. These are the words of Rabbi Akiva. But Yishmael says this is a cattle shed. One who wants to make a cattle shed builds it 4 cubits by 6, a small house 6 by 8, a large one 8 by 10, a salon 10 by 10 in height must equal the half of its length and width. Proof to this is from the sanctuary. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamil says everything follows the construction of the sanctuary. One who owns a pit behind the house of another enters at, I'm sorry, one who owns a pit behind the house of another enters at the time that people ordinarily enter and leaves at the time that people ordinarily leave. He may not bring his animal in to give it drinks from the pit. Rather, he must fill a container and give it to drink outside, and each one may make a lock for himself. One who owns a garden behind the garden of another enters the when
We're
people
done. We're done there.
are done. Okay.
Yeah. Yoma.
Gimel Dalet. They spread a linen sheet from between him and the people. He undressed, descended, immersed himself, ascended, and dried himself. They brought him gold vestments, and he donned them, but he washed his hands and feet. They brought him the daily offering. He made the incision, and another completed the slaughter for him. He received the blood in a vessel and threw it. He entered the temple to burn the morning incense and to prepare the lamps of the menorah. He offered the head and the limbs, the chavitim, and the offering of the wine. The morning incense was offered every day between the throwing of the blood and the offering of the limbs of the daily offering, that of the afternoon between the offering of the limbs that and the nesachim. If the Kohen Gadol was old or delicate, they warmed water for him and poured it into the cold water so that he should not lose it, so it should lose its chill. They brought him to the private chamber, which was in the holy area. They spread a linen sheet between him and the people. He washed his hands and feet and then undressed. Demai said first he undressed, then he washed his hands and feet. He went down and immersed himself, extended and dried himself. They brought him white vestments. He dressed and then washed his hands and feet.
Okay. We're done.
Okay. Done. Okay.
All right. Well, Shavua Tov.
We will talk. Have a great week.
Okay.
Great day. And I'll see you tomorrow.